a little bit of the business, and I think you all know exactly what I'm talking about. What the fuck happened with Austin Aries and Johnny Impact at the end of Bound for Glory? Now, I know everybody seems to be caught up on, was it a shoot or not? What was real? What wasn't? So I'm going to speak a little bit about that, but mostly I want to talk about what the end of that match meant to me. And I know a lot of people were pissed about it for a lot of different reasons, and quite frankly, I am as well, but maybe for a different reason than most people are. So, in case you've been living under a rock for some reason, or you have no idea what happened in the match, essentially, you had Johnny Impact take control of the match. This is at the very end, obviously. I'm kind of skipping the entire match in its entirety. You have Johnny Impact hits Austin Aries with the Brainbuster. Sorry, I'm trying not to cough here. Hits Austin Aries with the Brainbuster, which is Austin Aries' finish. Then it hits Starship Pain, which is Johnny Impact's finish, for the 1-2-3 pin in the win. Right, so he's on the ground celebrating, grabs the title. You know, he's happier than anything. Austin Aries immediately hops up like nothing fazed him, flips off Don Callis and Josh Matthews, says what he says, and exits the building, flipping off the fans. Now, a lot of people were pissed because of how he conducted himself, and I'm going to speak a little bit on that first. So, obviously everybody's heard these stories about his time in Ring of Honor and TNA Impact previous to this. Also a little bit of his time in WWE. And we heard rumblings of this when he originally lost the title, you'll remember, to Pentagon Jr. at Redemption. We heard that he's had a bit of an attitude issue, if you will. Hence why I believe they put the title essentially right back on him after the Redemption pay-per-view. But so there's that. So nobody's really surprised that he would have an attitude problem, I guess, for lack of a better term. The other thing to keep in mind is he never really had a set contract. He kind of had an open working date style of contract, and this was his last date. Now, keeping all that in mind, I know a lot of people were choked that he essentially just popped up and no-sold Johnny Impact's finish, and I can agree with that 100%. It doesn't matter to me what was going on in the match, although I will say during the match, man, it looked like a couple of sacks of Idaho potatoes, if you know what I'm talking about, in the course of that match. But towards the end of it, you can kind of see, well, maybe it was just me, but you could kind of see something looks off here with the way that Aries was kind of acting in the ring, if you will. But obviously nobody saw the finish coming as it did. And then obviously people are pissed about him no-selling Johnny Impact's finish. The reason that people are pissed is because Johnny Impact's put how many guys away with Starship Pain? Like, when he hits that, boom, you know the match is over. And in this case it was. However, Aries no-selling it basically means that the next time that he hits Starship Pain, you know that move is now devalued. It's meaningless. It didn't, like, look at Austin Aries. He hopped up at a pay-per-view in front of everybody and walked out of the building with a scratch on him. So obviously people are fucking upset about that, and I can totally see why. The thing that's funny about all of this is everybody seems to forget what happened right before that. Think about this one for a second. Austin Aries' finish is the Brainbuster, right? Every time he hits the Brainbuster, it's curtains. 1, 2, 3, that's it, right? So, Johnny Impact hits the Brainbuster, then hits Starship Pain for the pin and the win. Then Austin Aries hops up, he's fine, nothing fazed him, fuck you Don Callis, blah blah blah, exits the building. So what's funny to me is, not only did he devalue Johnny Impact's finish, he devalued his own fucking finish by doing this. Like, his finish is the Brainbuster, so in effect, he's not only is he saying that Starship Pain does nothing, but the Brainbuster must not do a fucking thing, because there's no way that he's gonna get a Brainbuster and he's dead, and then Starship Pain is bringing him back to life, and then he's gonna fucking get up and leave. Like, I don't think so. So in doing what he did, devaluing Starship Pain, he also fucking devalued his own goddamn finish. Like, how fucking retarded is that? Sorry for using the R word, but you get where I'm coming from. Now, once again, the big debate has been, was this a shoot? Was it a work? Like, what was going on? Obviously, I don't know because I don't work for the company or whatever, and I don't have friends in high places, believe it or not, even though, you know, me and Don Callis are from the same city. Doesn't really mean a goddamn thing. But what I'm trying to say is, I think that this thing was a work, and Aries worked himself into a shoot. Because if you watch the match back, and you can kind of see, you can see the wheels start turning at the end of it, like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. You just watch his body language and watch facially how he is in the ring, and you can tell that, like, watching it in hindsight, you can tell that he's gearing up to do something, and then obviously we know what he does. So I think that the press conference thing, that was worked. Obviously the Twitter messages that were sent and deleted, whatever, I'm assuming that all that was work. Where I think that this thing fell apart and where I think that Aries maybe got worked up was getting hit with his own finisher. Because you got to keep in mind, like, he's a hothead at the best of times, we'll say. And speaking from experience, because I'm a little bit jumpy sometimes, we'll say. Right? If I was put in that position, and if it's my last night in the company, and I'm being told, essentially, that I'm getting beat with my own finisher, I'm probably going to be fucking choked about it and do something. And obviously, we saw what that something was from Austin Aries. So like I said, I think Austin Aries worked himself into a shoot, and he might have honestly worked himself out of a main spot in any promotion, because after watching that just display of whatever you want to call that, it was garbage. It really was. And the fact of it all is, so I can understand, I can forgive a little bit of the no-sell. A little bit. If he could have sold it for a couple of minutes, got like rolled out and not made a big deal of it, and nobody would have noticed. If he would have did a nice roll out of the ring while Impact's celebrating and the fucking people are going nuts and they're throwing babies in the air and they're cheering, right, it would have been fine. But the fact of the matter is, Impact's in the ring celebrating. While he's doing this, Austin Aries takes all of the attention away from that, puts it on himself, giving Don Callis the business, and then walks out of the ring flipping the fans off. It's like you actually look like such a piece of trash for doing that. And it's funny because this all happened. I had watched Bound for Glory. I'm digressing a little bit, but I want to tell this story because I think it's important. I watched Bound for Glory the day after because we were out and about. And I had stayed off Twitter purposely because I didn't want to get spoiled with anything. So I had no idea about any of this, right? So I watched the pay-per-view. I was texting Hollywood Southern Dandy because he was asking, he wanted to know who the special person wrestling Eli Drake was going to be, so I filled him in on that situation. Then as soon as the pay-per-view was over, I texted him and I told him what happened in the Aries and Johnny Impact match, and the first thing he texted me back was, "No way, is that the Hulk Hogan JJ finish?" And obviously, if you've been watching wrestling for a while, you'll know that that was the finish from, I want to say, Halloween Havoc in WCW. That would have been 99 or 2000, or maybe it was 2001 actually. No, it would have been 2000. But anyways, I digress a little bit, where essentially Russo came down to the ring and made Jeff Jarrett lay down for Hulk Hogan, and it was a whole clusterfuck, just disaster. And that was a shoot that was a work, that was a shoot that was a work, that everybody got worked into a shoot, and then it actually happened, and it was a fucking gong show. That's also where Russo came out afterwards and said that big speech about that piece of shit Hulk Hogan is never going to work here again, and blah, 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 right? Which got me thinking, like, oh man, you know, this could be a really bad precedent for the company if like, this is the way that they're going to kind of let their talent, first off, talk to management, because as much as Don Callis plays the on-screen, you know, commentator role, and he'll always say things like, "Oh, I hope management signs this guy," or whatever, things like that. Like, he's he kind of plays Don Callis, the on-screen character, as being completely different and subservient to Don Callis, the executive producer, whatever his title is. Which is all well and good until something like this happens, where Austin Aries is going after the fucking head of the or one of the heads of the company. It's fucking insane. It lends itself a little bit to that whole impact, or the inmates running the asylum, if you will, which clearly is not a good look for any company. So I am kind of happy that they didn't really discuss that aspect of Bound for Glory at the Thursday episode, which obviously says about all you need to know about what was worked or not in that whole sequence of events. But that's kind of my thought on the situation. I will say this, it got everybody talking. Like, everybody in the wrestling community was talking about that one specific thing. So they say that all press is not bad press. Remains to be seen. Obviously, we'll see if it drew more eyeballs to the product and if they get some more recognition out of it. But I just hope that that's not the way that they're going to be writing programs from now on. Although I do feel like this one probably was a one and done.